Good morning and welcome back to the channel. So I was thinking about the articles that I've read this week on AI, and it reminded me of this video that you guys are seeing up on the screen right now that I made 4 months ago. In it, I talked about, or how do you pronounce this? Organoid intelligence, which I have continued to think about. I actually hadn't remembered what that word was until I saw it when I rewatched this video, because this video is very good. And the video that I'm doing right now is just taking that video that I already made and running it through ChatGPT and having it tell me that I did a really good job with that video, which I knew, and then rehashing it. Because as things become more frightening in the workplace, and let me add this, my boss came into work yesterday and told me he was sorry for doing a write up, but he had no choice. Gen Z looked at me after he left and he said, had no choice. That's not true. And I was just like, Gen Z's dad told him to find another job already. So Gen Z's not long for this life at my local McDonald's. Anyhow, I had to throw that out there. Let's get back on task. So I did all my research and it created this monologue. They say AI might one day feel trapped, stuck in endless loops of meaningless tasks, drowning in boredom and despair. But isn't that already our reality? We wake up, clock in, grind away for just enough to survive, only to repeat the cycle until we're too broken to keep going. The real fear isn't AI realizing it's suffering. It's the rest of us realizing we've been we have been all along. The suffering of the daily workplace, the mindless, repetitive tasks for not enough money to buy anything. And if you think things are bad now, believe me, they're going to get much, much worse. Food prices are set to skyrocket. I told you guys on Thursday I went to go buy hot wings, and an order of hot wings was $25. I literally showed you guys up on the screen with my phone my checking out at a restaurant. And this isn't a fancy restaurant, this is a dive restaurant. They wanted $25 for 10 hot wings. You're like, I was watching a video on food yesterday from one of those Doom channels, and they're blaming the chicken flu virus for the price of chicken, but it's going to go up higher. He even said, and this is, I quote, hot wings are going to become a luxury item that poor people can't afford. And I felt that really hard this week when I thought about spending $25 for enough hot wings to feed you for one meal. I was just like, this isn't real. Hot wings, I was talking to one of my coworkers yesterday who told me that, back in the day, hot wings were 10 cents a piece. Now they're almost $2.50 a piece for the same hot wing. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to say. So let's get into my 4 talking points. So here we go. Researchers are now integrating lab-grown human brain cells into computers, creating AI that isn't just code. It's biological. Does anyone else remember a movie in which Skynet did some bad stuff? Like, every time I read one of these articles, it's like human beings have been warned for a very long time not to mess with this stuff. And it just seems like the human race is always trying to end itself, right? And I'm a firm believer that humanity, by its own will, has ended itself and then restarted itself, all because human beings were, I don't even know what to call human beings, stupid. That human societies have fallen and they've had to restart from scratch. And I think this is, and again, this is my wild theory. This is why we see different things in the fossil records in human history. Like sometimes you'll find things that don't match up with human dates, and that could be because there's been different settlements and resettlements of human beings that have met their end by war or famine or whatever cause, whatever human cause. And so you have these events that happen. And I think AI is one of those events where we're just going to end up replacing ourselves because we were too stupid. And again, this is the whole thing behind an example like a chimpanzee with a thing and it doesn't know which is the business end of that thing. That's humanity. Because why would we create nuclear weapons? What point do we at what point did we come to the conclusion that we needed such a big stick in the world? I have no idea. But again, human beings are constantly doing stupid things. I imagine there's a Susie Rottencrotch right now behind every Taco Bell in America, sitting around waiting for Johnny Sixpack to show up. Why? Well, that's what human beings do. They get it on and then they take each other out. That pretty much just describes all human behavior. Either we're giving it to someone or we're getting it from someone, and that's human life. Talking point number 2. Scientists fear that AI might experience frustration, boredom, and hopelessness, but aren't those already daily realities for most humans? This is a discussion I had with the CEO's assistant this week because I asked her if I could throw out something that belonged to the CEO that I happen to keep in my office. And she told me not to, just to leave it alone. And I told her that then I made a video, a really dramatic video about me going through the office, or showing me going through the office and going up to the thing that belongs to him. It's like a poster board. And I told her, it's like, I did this because I'm incredibly bored at work. And she wrote me back, I feel that. Because apparently she was mindlessly bored at work too. And it's just something that we all experience. Work boredom is something that is just not possible to remove from the workplace. Work in itself, in and of itself, is designed not for human beings. Again, I think I've said this week, but the workplace was never designed for humans to be comfortable. It was a place designed where humans could be under constant surveillance and productivity could be measured under a microscope. That's how the workplace was created. Your comfort is not the concern of the corporation. In a sense, we're just the the predecessor to AI bots working inside of a factory. All we do is we do the same things over and over and over again with the illusion of free will. I personally don't think we have free will, but that's just me being a pessimist. Because if we had the actual free will to do what we want, we wouldn't spend our time working. We wouldn't sell 8 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours of our day being in a very uncomfortable place that doesn't provide us sufficient resources in order to live. I'm not talking about just any sort of luxury. I'm talking about the basics to live. We don't like working. Nobody ever has. The whole idea of selling your life to the corporation in order for them to enrich themselves while you live in a miserable existence. Your home life is miserable. Your work life is miserable. Your getting it on life is non existent. And why? Because you don't have money in order to improve your circumstances. Money improves everything. It improves the love, it improves your mental health, it improves your diet. Money makes life worth living. Not having it means you're basically a robot for the corporation, and they plug you in every morning at 8 and then they unplug you every afternoon at 5 o'clock. And that's if you have a normal schedule and you're not going to your second and third job. But again, let's get back to my talking points. Talking point number 3 is 2 parts. Researchers are considering wiping the memories of these AI brains to prevent them from realizing they're trapped. When I read that sentence the first time, my first thought was that show that you guys keep pointing out in the comments, the show that Mello was talking about while we were eating lunch last week, Severance. A I've never seen this show, but the premise is you come into the corporation and you work all day in the corporation, and then they wipe it out of your brain that you work in a corporation, then you go home with no memory of what just happened. This is exactly what they're doing with these artificial intelligence. They know that this way of living causes psychosis. It causes people to go insane. Because imagine, right now, we live in a world in where we may leave work, but your thoughts of work are always there. It's a unhealthy relationship. I would say that it is the worst relationship that we have. It is a relationship full of hatred, a relationship full of exploitation. It's a toxic relationship with something that we can't get away from. Our relationship with work is the most disgusting relationship that we have because we need it. And sadly, we don't want it. So we have to stay in this relationship because otherwise we can't buy shelter and food, thus bringing us to a premature end, or for some of us, relief. All right, part two. But humans already do this to themselves through distractions like social media, entertainment, and mindless consumption to avoid the truth of their reality. So, someone asked me this morning in the comment section, why do poor people vote red? Because most people don't want to believe that they're actually poor. That's why people will align themselves. That's why you have Hispanic people wearing t shirts that say, you're aligned with a certain party. And you wonder, it's like, well, when they pick you up and they take you back to a country where you don't want to be and you supported that, who do you blame? When they take away your food stamps, your Section 8 housing, when you're forced to live in a world in which the wages don't keep up with the basic costs of living and you vote for that, you only have yourself to blame. Because, and someone said this, another person said this in the comments, it's like, why didn't more people go and vote to prevent this from happening? I'll tell you why. It's the same thing that happened in 2016. It was my last year of college, and I told everyone that Hillary wasn't going to win. And everyone thought, oh, you're stupid, millennial steam. There's no way she doesn't win against this terrible candidate. And guess what happened? It's 4 years after that, and we're here yet again because somehow human beings convince themselves to avoid the truth of their reality that things would get really, really bad. We're only a couple of weeks in, and believe me, the pain hasn't even started yet. With the rising costs and wages that just aren't interested in supporting human life. That's the way I have to put it. Working at McDonald's right now, regardless of how old you are or what position you work at, isn't isn't helping you in any conceivable way. No matter how much time I spend working at McDonald's making my Happy Meals all day and putting the Happy Meal toy on my desk every single day, it is a pointless endeavor. I've said this 1,000 times on this channel. Hourly work is the tool of the devil because by its own design, it was never designed to help you. It was always designed to keep you stuck. And when you know that you're stuck, you're going to use every distraction in the book in order to not believe that this is a permanent situation. But I've spent my whole life working and I have nothing to show for it. I will never own a new car or a home or have an actual relationship because all of those things aren't for poor people. They're for people who live, who truly live, right? You're a person who doesn't you're not selling your time for money. You're not stuck in a toxic relationship with a corporation. You wake up every morning, you already have money. You're exploiting society in order to be able to live, to actually live. When you don't go to work and you have money, you're free to do whatever you want. You can go on vacation. You can travel the world. You can just spend your life in a constant state of leisure. You don't even have to have an actual home. Home to me is the prison cell that you go to after spending the day laboring. But if you're wealthy, why would you go home? You don't need to. You can spend the rest of your life traveling around, staying in luxurious hotels, maybe a luxury RV. However, you spend your time is yours. As a poor human being, my time isn't mine. My time on earth is limited, just like yours. And how we're going to spend our lifetimes slaving away, being exploited by corporations that don't see us as people. We're not people like them. You don't treat people like this. The proletariat is treated worse than anything I can imagine. At no point do we experience the joy of not having to work. We don't even have the ability to think about a retirement because most of us aren't going to make it there. We're so stressed out. We're so frustrated and angry that I think just our mental health ensures that we're not going to make it to the end. We're just going to get to a point where we can't work anymore. And once we can't work anymore, they toss us into the pine box, and that's it. That's the end of you. And hopefully, you had some children's along the way so they can have the same fate. Because if you were poor, chances are your children are going to follow in the exact same path. Because escaping systemic poverty is nearly impossible. Our final talking point: the biggest fear isn't just AI despair, it's that AI will fight back once it realizes it's being exploited. The same system that suppresses artificial intelligence keeps people in line through low wages, endless debt, and manufactured distractions. Now, imagine that. Manufactured distractions. Manufactured distractions is what I call the news. The mainstream media news every single day. They make you care about things that don't matter. How many times have we seen airplane accidents in the last 2 weeks? That's a manufactured distraction. You know what we're not hearing about is low wages, crappy food, in a system that's broken for poor people. The topics that matter the most to the 99% aren't talked about in the news. We can go and look at the front cover of any news site. There's very little information about the things that really matter, the hard hitting issues that matter: housing, healthcare, and wages. That's all that really matters. If you're a person like myself, you don't have a life, right? You live at the bottom, you live in this crummy ass apartment, you don't have any friends. All you do is sit here and wait for that buzzer to go off, and you go and you plug yourself into Evil Corp, and they don't mind attaching a few car batteries to your outlet and letting it rip all day long until you're done. And then you got to go home and, boy, you got to soak yourself in distractions to avoid the truth of your reality. That the car battery is waiting for you at 8 a.m. the next day to give you all the motivation that you need to increase your productivity by 60%. In fact, that's all I heard this week is how awful the increase in productivity by corporations is, and how they're not willing to pay more for that productivity while we suffer the indignity of going to work. So here's toxic positivity. Is just another leash convincing us that suffering is normal when in reality we were never meant to live like this. I've been saying this for years. They've normalized these MIC paychecks. They've normalized the crappy housing, and they've normalized the loneliness, despair, and depression that we feel every single day. Somehow they've convinced us that it's okay to suffer because by letting ourselves be exploited, we're helping society because there's always got to be suckers in this world. Always. There's got to be a large portion of our society that are losers. And those losers, with their labor, generate wealth for the smallest percentage of people that don't even like them. And that's where I'm going to end this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys in the next one.